They thought they could bulldoze my history and bury me in silence. But when you tear down a man's bridge, you awaken something far stronger than fear. You awaken his war. It happened without warning. The morning air should have been filled with birdsong, but instead it carried the metallic roar of machines. I ran outside barefoot, my chest pounding, only to see bulldozers tearing into my land. And there it was, my grandfather's bridge, splintering under their claws like it was nothing. "Stop! What the hell are you doing?" Orders from the HOA, liability structure. Karen's voice on the radio. "This bridge was unauthorized. We are within our rights." By noon, the bridge was gone. By evening, silence weighed on the valley so heavy that even the river seemed ashamed to flow. I sat on the bank, fists buried in dirt, remembering my grandfather's words. "Never let them bulldoze your ground. If you don't stand, they'll build their palace on your bones." The next morning, I stormed into the HOA office. The receptionist smiled, the kind of smile that says, "We own you." Moments later, she appeared. Karen Whitmore, beige cardigan, pearls gleaming like weapons. Her smirk widened when she saw me. "That bridge was my property. You had no right. In this neighborhood, everything is ours to touch. You moved here. You agreed." Night after night, I buried myself in county records. Coffee went cold, papers scattered like battlefield maps, and then I found it. A secret deal. The HOA had signed off water diversion to a luxury developer. They didn't destroy my bridge for safety. They destroyed it for profit. Then came Mr. Lee, quiet, retired, always reading on his porch. He invited me in, and what I saw left me speechless. His back room was a vault of evidence, permits, maps, notes. He had tracked them for years. He leaned close and whispered, "Water doesn't ask permission, and greed always forgets that. They drained half the wetlands already, and for what? Karen's resort money? And the dam? Their weakest spot. If the gates open at the wrong time," he let the silence finish. "Karen paraded like a queen at the annual barbecue. Kids laughed. Banners read, 'Community First.' Burger smoked on the grill. And then she took the mic. Her voice sugar-coated poison. That's when something inside me snapped. "What about the wetlands, Karen? What about the families whose land you've stolen?" Another conspiracy theorist. Neighbors, don't let bitterness blind you. The retaliation began quietly. White envelopes slipped under my door, fines for my grass, warnings for my porch light, each one a blade, cutting slow. Soon the stack grew into a tower of threats. Karen was bleeding me dry, one notice at a time. One afternoon, 2 inspectors arrived. Badges flashed, their eyes rehearsed. They poked through my shed, my fence, my garden, scribbling violations like execution orders. When they left, they handed me a citation so heavy it might as well have been a death sentence. "We've had reports of unauthorized structures." "Reports from who, Karen?" Sir, we're just doing our job." That night, I sat in the dark, my chest heaving, tears burned down my face as I whispered, "She's gonna take everything." But then, silence. And deep inside, a fire roared awake. If she wanted war, war she would get.
After the barbecue, neighbors started whispering to me at the mailbox, their voices low, their eyes darting like frightened birds. "Is it true about the water?" they asked. Fear lived in their faces, but so did something else, doubt. The cracks in Karen's empire were showing. Mr. Lee and I met in secret. Maps spread across his table, coffee steaming between us. He pointed at the dam's auxiliary gate, their weakest point. "One lever at the right time, and the resort's lake dries out overnight," he whispered. I felt my pulse quicken. This wasn't just survival anymore. It was a rebellion. Karen struck harder. More fines, more inspectors. Then came the foreclosure notice. According to them, I was delinquent. According to them, my home, the house my grandfather built, would be seized. I stared at the letter, the sun setting behind me like a curtain closing. For a moment, I couldn't breathe, and then I knew this was war without mercy. Late at night, Mr. Lee and I drove with headlights off, walking along the chain-link fence of the dam. The concrete giant loomed above us, its gates groaning like a sleeping beast. "See that rusted panel?" he whispered. "That's the auxiliary control. They never check it." My chest pounded. One lever could undo everything Karen had built. The moment came at the next HOA meeting. I stood before the board, the room packed with neighbors. "You drained our river, you stole our homes, and now you're building a resort with our money." Gasps filled the air. Karen slammed her gavel, but the whispers had turned to anger. For the first time, she wasn't in control. "You demolished my bridge. You bled me with fines. But you will not steal this community's soul. Sit down, Mr. Hayes. You are finished." "No, Karen, you are!" That night, with the pressure at its peak, we flipped the auxiliary lever. Steel groaned, water thundered, the resort's artificial lakes drained like a bathtub pulled open. By dawn, their golf course was a desert of cracked earth. The river had reclaimed itself, and Karen's empire lay in ruins. The flood brought more than anger. It brought reporters, investigators, federal agents, and finally, justice. In the courtroom, Karen sat in her pearls, her smirk gone. I testified with trembling hands but a steady voice. When the verdict was read, guilty on fraud, embezzlement, and environmental crimes, I felt the chains break. Months later, I stood by the riverbank again, but this time, laughter echoed around me. Neighbors came together, raising beams, hammering nails. Together, we rebuilt the bridge my grandfather once built alone. And as I placed the final plank, I realized it wasn't just a bridge. It was proof that no tyrant, no HOA could erase a community that refuses to bow. They thought they could bulldoze my history. They thought they could bury me in silence. But when you tear down a man's bridge, you awaken something far stronger than fear. You awaken his war. And in the end, the river always delivers its verdict.